All right, thank you for staying with Citizen TV's Daybreak Show. This is the State of the Nation, where we talk about matters, politics, and everything in between there. And there's quite a number of topics to go through. We'll talk about Ruto's big gamble in PS's choices, as the Standard calls it. Well, the Daily Nation calls it Ruto's government takes on final shape. We'll also talk about setback for Kawira's cabinet, mostly the county governments. And cost of living as well is rising, and CDF. Let me introduce my guest real quick. His Excellency Dr. Kimani Wamatangi is here. Kiambu Governor, thank you so much for making time.
Thank you.
Gabriel Mudhuma is also here, communication strategist and political commentator. Asante sana for making time.
Karibu sana, my brother.
Dr. James Nyikal, Member of Parliament for Seme, is also here with us. Asante sana for making time. Let's start off with the Daily Nation and see what is really going on here. They say Ruto's government is taking final shape. Mix of old and new. List of proposed principal secretaries in the Kenya Kwanza administration reveals a delicate attempt by the president to equitably share the executive pie, but also exposes an inclination to reward party loyalists with plum positions. And Dr. Nyikal, I'll start with you in this. What do you make of this PS's positions that have been given, plus the cabinet positions as well? Is this rewarding political allies, or is it based on merit?
Well, I think the most prominent thing about it all, whether it's the PSS or whether it is the CSS, is actually rewarding political allies. The issue of balancing the age, youth, and the old, well, I think that's fair enough. But in terms of regional representation, it also falls short quite a bit. And you can see it clearly on party lines. And since in any case our parties seem to be regionally based, or let me say ethnically based, that is the path that you are seeing. So on that score, I don't think he has done very well. He has not really come out to demonstrate, as he said, this will be a government for all regardless of how you voted. The distribution of PSS and TSS has not shown that.
Yeah, but Dr. Nyikal, the truth is, in as much as people have been appointed in different places, would you expect the president to appoint someone who they did not share a vision with?
I don't believe that if you took a regional distribution, that even in regions that didn't vote for the president, they are not people that actually share their view. There may be few, but actually, if you look for them, you get them. But obviously, there will be pressure in areas where more people voted for you. There is also a claim. You know, when people support the political parties and leaders, there's a lot of expectation that they will be rewarded. So that pressure is not something you can ignore. But if you wanted people across the region, and they, like, let's say PSS don't have to really share your view. To a large extent, PSS are technical people, at least most of them. And if they are picked and they know the government they are serving, they will serve. I know when I was a PS, I didn't even expect to be a PS. I didn't have any political inclination at the time. And it worked well. And I know many people, when we sat as PSS in a meeting of PSS, most people are political. In fact, to the extent that when you started talking politics, you found that the people were uncomfortable. Yeah. At PS level, you can get that balance. Okay. Yeah.
Governor Wamatangi, let me bring in on this, because you've had to deal with this sort of regional balance when it comes to appointment of CECs. Is it fair for 50% of the cabinet positions, that is 11 out of 22, to go to Mount Kenya and Rift Valley? For the PSS, it's 50.9%. That is 26 out of 51. Does this show regional balance?
Good morning, Trevor. And morning to our viewers, and morning to my panelists here. Yes, I think there's important arithmetic that you miss when you make that kind of assertion. See, regional balance, that's one of the considerations. If you look at those two regions, but first I think it's important to look at the entire list of all the nominees. And the question one would be asking themselves, which region is not represented here? All regions are represented. So now if we boil down to then that question of percentages, that's almost self-explanatory, because the Mount Kenya region the Rift Valley region. And in Rift Valley, how many counties are you speaking about when you talk about Rift Valley? Many counties. And so then you look at the population of those two regions. What percentage of the population comes from that region itself? Because I think when we are balancing, unless we want to reduce that question of balancing to the ethnic arithmetic, then one may have an argument. But ethnicity is something we've put behind us, when it comes to the comparison between, do you use meritocracy? Do you use, ethnicity? Do you use the argument we had here the last time, suitability and qualification and competitiveness? But also, needless to say, that when forming government, Trevor, you form government with people who also share your vision. That's why you have an administration, for that matter, that is led by a winner in a contest that marketed different ideas to the people of this republic. And when people vote to say yes to the vision, to the ideas that have been sold to them by that particular candidate and his coalition. That's how political competition happens. It's not just a competition of probably who has just simply numbers, but it's the acceptability of the message. And so once you've gotten the go-ahead, the nod from your voters to get on the job, then you want, in as much as possible, consider all the requirements of the Constitution, but then ensure that what you have promised also gets to happen. And so that is why you will need, in that combination of your choice, to have people who believe in your vision, people who share in your ideas and ideals, and people who are ready and willing to carry out that agenda out to the people, so that when the test comes of again 5 years down the line, did you live true to what you said? Then you have answers to make. And Trevor, I know we may be digressing too far off from the sharp focus of the exact question you've asked, but how many governments have you seen whereby you have people who have been given the opportunity to serve and they become internal saboteurs of a vision of a government? And so I want to say, when I look at this list, in my view, it has almost every, person you may think representing regions, ethnicity, if you like, different regions and religions, persuasions. Just by a quick look, I was looking at the first few names that have been cast on the top page of the Standard. There's a Kipto, there's a Raymond Omolo, there is a Hinga, there is a Mweke, there is a Mwadime, there is a Muhati, Inyagala, Juma, so when you look, Hololo Tua, Home Bashir, so literally, I mean, when you look at those names, it's a galaxy of Kenyans across the entire country.
Yeah.
And I think, other than if we want to still be contestants as we were during the politics of elections, I think we should now say this is a good formation.
Okay.
Let's get on to business and let's see then what they can do within those few days that they have been given. 5 years is a very short time.
Okay.
We'll be back to the elections and the judgment will be out there.
Okay.
I think we should wait for what this team is going to deliver.
Okay. Gabriel, are we simply just splitting hairs here, or is there a point in terms of regional balance that's missing?
Well, Trevor, good morning, and to our viewers and my colleagues here. First of all, we have to look at this thing holistically. And when I say holistically, you look at how you will judge the president. Like Governor has said, after 5 years, what do we judge? We judge the president and his team in entirety. Were they able to deliver what they promised to Kenyans? Are they heading in the right direction, sir? And you see, if you start putting that into focus, you realize you give the president a free hand to choose his team. PSS is actually a very critical docket because, unlike what Mheshimiwa is saying, if these people don't support your vision, they can be as great as they come. They can have, they can tick all the boxes. But if they become a stumbling block, remember, this is an accounting officer within a ministry. If they are not in line with your vision, then you're going to have a hard time. When it comes to region balancing, I think he's really tried in a way, coming from the regions that we expected. We've seen a very young man, Omolo, coming from who is a PS internal, The president has actually broken away from the usual suspects where we expect actually this particular seat to go. When you look at diaspora affairs, you have a very young, talented lady at the age of 37. But Trevor, there's to me it's about the team. It's a holistic approach how the president has looked at it, and given what he wants to achieve. Mainly, you look at housing. You realize P.S. Hinga has been left. That's very strategic because he is among the vision bearer of this, housing, project when it was still under the Big Four. So when you come to places like education, Belio Kipsang has gone back to education. And remember, Belio Kipsang was among the people who did the 100% transition. So he has his roots very grained into education. So apart from just regional balance alone, you have to look at the team. You have to look, why are these people in these offices? And I can tell you there's a strategic plan, because at the end of the day, these are the people who are going to deliver, to assist you deliver that holistic plan. So yes, we can talk about the regional balancing thing, which I think has actually been taken care of. But more than anything, we are witnessing an appointment of very young people. When you look at somebody like John Amoike, he brings in actually a lot of talent into this ministry. Remember, he was the deputy governor of Nairobi, and he was quite involved in the sport arena. He still is. So there's also the part of, the people who know, or are able to look at how things, may pan out. So I think that's a very big plus I'd give to the president. The other thing, obviously, which I've had people on social media talk about, it's the gender issue. So that one probably he may take a little bit of a slack, but I think generally, and to just paint a holistic picture, remember, we are going to judge him by what he's able to deliver. Yeah. And when it comes to PSS, who are accounting officers within the ministry and state departments, that's a very big...
Let me just make a small point. Yes, at the PS level, it's a technical area. The people who give the political direction, the vision carriers are actually the ministers.
The PSS, the CSS, right?
The CSS. And when you come to the PS level, it's to a large extent technical. And I've seen and we have experienced, they actually are amenable to the direction that comes from the minister. That is why I was not... when I'm talking about it, the level of the ministers, I can say, yes, you need people who carry your vision. You need people who even think politically like you. But when you come to delivery, you must remember, that politics, if not checked, does not always conform to technical realities. And people, when we talk of regions, we must talk of people, not land. Because land or physical structures do not have feelings, but people do. And people live by their feelings. People live like all animals as groups. So if there is a feeling that a certain group has been left out, you have not achieved. Because you must realize that human beings are the only animals that commit suicide when they are not satisfied in their hearts. So if they can say, this life of mine is so worthless, I better throw it away. It is therefore very important that to carry the feelings of people. In fact, when you come from a divided election, the biggest task of the leader is actually to try and bring the people together. The reality of it will also be seen in how the services are delivered. And the way you do the distribution, the people who are doing it, you may deliver services perfectly, but if people feel they don't belong, we are perhaps all parents. You can give the children food, you can give them clothes, you can give them everything. But if they feel that daddy, mommy, doesn't really think of me, doesn't consider me. They actually ignore all that. So the feeling of people, which is normally taken into account by representation, is extremely important. So we may throw a name here, throw a name there, but the reality is as people see.
But Dr. does healing the nation only come when you employ members of a certain community?
Correct.
Because the president clearly said that I did not employ anyone from anywhere. I employed Kenyans to work for Kenya.
Trevor, all over the world, people live as groups. And even if you go within one ethnic group, even if you go within a sublocation, people still feel they belong to certain areas. And therefore, and that feeling, that is the origin of representation and democracy. People want to feel that, okay, I think I'm safe, I can see my like there. So if people don't feel that I'm represented, even the services that are offered, they don't take it really wholeheartedly as you'd expect. So we must never say that if you don't share my views, then don't expect, or so long as services are delivered, it doesn't matter who is delivering them, people should be satisfied with it. I have served in many areas, but when you work with people, the first thing is they want a sense of belonging, even to that. Even if you are running a district hospital, the people want to have a sense of belonging there. So Trevor, let us not throw a name here, throw a name there. Just look at the reality and the numbers. Okay. But you see, like what the president has been doing, which has been somehow commendable, he has made an effort to actually go to places even when were not expected. Right. I think I like that approach. But that must also be reflected at levels where you don't necessarily need your staunch political supporter. Get a technical person, he can do the job, but he also representing the feeling of the people they come from.
Trevor, let me correct Mheshimiwa respectfully. Yeah. When you say the feeling, when you bring the feeling, I think, Mheshimiwa, that's a mindset we need to change. For instance, you've talked about the district hospital. What is my primary concern when I go and find a doctor who is able to sort my ailments vis-a-vis one who's talking my language? At the end of the day, we need a serious mind change, because you are looking for somebody who can do the job, not somebody you have a good feeling about. Those are two different animals. I would have wished we left the PS positions to be technically run.
Correct.
Academic, people who are technical in the things. Yeah. But we have seen that has not worked. Look at the last government. You had actually not one, you had powerful PSs who actually you thought were running the country. And that's what we need to run away from. Remember, at the end of the day, this is a political appointment. And I will not, when it comes to the gravy of it, I am going to judge the president based on what he's able to deliver. Now, the last thing I want is to have that person who does not even feel he is technical, but one who is so political. We saw that. In fact, on a very intricate docket, we saw somebody who felt, they were running the show. And that's what I think we need to run away from. Coming back again, I want to finalize it, Mheshimiwa. This idea of a feeling, I think, and I've had so many people say this, I think we've taken it too far. What we need is service delivery. If somebody is there, and I've repeated this is still a political appointment, when somebody is there and I don't have a good feeling about, but they can deliver, I would go for the one who's delivering. And Governor will tell you, not everybody likes his CECs. Probably the people who voted, they were expecting somebody who they know. But if that CEC is able to deliver, the governor doesn't care much. Because at the end of the day, the people of Kiambu will judge the governor based on what he's able to deliver, not the feeling per se.
Just one thing he said, let me just he made a perfect example. Yeah. That when you are, say, like when you're a doctor, you are looking after somebody, the person's feeling is the most important to you. You may be a beautiful doctor, you may be perfect, you may be... even a surgeon, you may actually have done a perfect job, the person has recovered, but if the person feels that you didn't take care of them, you didn't take care of their feelings, they'll even sue you. Okay. And yet you can actually do a relatively lousy job, but if the person feels, you go to the funeral and you're being praised. Don't ignore people's feelings.
Okay. Governor, I want to hear your views on this because you're dealing with it yourself there. So where do you draw the line between regional balance, ethnicity, and feelings, like the Mheshimiwa Nyikali is saying? Because now we're seeing a situation where there's an admission that, yes, a representative from different ethnic groups have been here in this cabinet, but they're not enough. There are some who are more represented than others. So where do you draw the line here?
Well, I was struggling to understand which feelings we're talking about.
The feeling of inclusivity. You feel included in the government. That's included.
If governor doesn't need feelings, he's in for a rough ride. People act from their feelings.
Anyway, I think the important point to make is that even at permanent secretary level, which is probably equal to, at the county government level, to a chief officer. Technocrat, yes, they'll need to be policy-wise about the dockets they occupy. But if the feelings Dr. Nyikali is talking about are feelings about their relationship with the person who has appointed them, then he's right, that they need to feel that they align with the vision of the regime or the administration they serve in. And so there's no point at which between a cabinet secretary, a permanent secretary, and the apex of leadership. And I would mirror it with the county government level, between the governor, the deputy governor, and the CECs and the chief officers. That is the head of the county leadership. So there is no way you will ignore the fact that those people would need to be believers. They need to be believers in the vision, the mission, and the agenda that they have been appointed to implement and carry and sell to the people. Those you cannot separate from each other. And so I think important to say, so that we don't belabor this point, is that these people have been put in place. They have a leader, His Excellency the President, who has clearly spelled out what he wants in this country for the next 5 years. The test is now, is this team going to rise up to the occasion and help the president to meet those targets and the expectations of the people? And I believe that by looking at them, we have every reason not to doubt that they're ready and they're willing to do what the president wants. I think at the end of the day, it mostly boils down to what I said here the last time, the tone at the top. Yes, and the tone at the top is clearly spelled out there by what the president has shown, has said. And that tone is right for this time. And I believe it's going to continue to be right. The rest have just got to, work and play to what the tone at the top is saying.
All right. Let's take a quick break here on Daybreak. You send in your tone at the top. Citizens Kenya, use the hashtag Daybreak. When you come back, we talk about the CDF issue. There's tightening your belt because the economy is becoming a bit rough and the counties set up where there's a bit of setback in different counties. We'd like to talk about all that in just a bit. Send in your views at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. I'll read some of them right after this break.